Hey guys, it's Tombox here. So sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially when you want to play competitive, you have to activate the best card of them all, the credit card! But more specifically, use that credit card to get some hand traps. And for the hand traps, well, some of you guys aren't getting the best bang for your buck. I mean, if you don't get any value out of your hand trap, then what's the point of getting them? Just because you have the hand trap does not automatically make you a better player, but we would like a comprehensive guide of what to hit in the current top decks. Now, it's June of 2018. We are nearing the WCQ season, so I decided to go ahead and write ourselves a little go-to guide. I guess you guys can't really see it because this is actually how I write all my scripts, through a piece of paper. So this one is actually a comprehensive guide of what to hand trap in every single top deck we have available, so we don't get ourselves screwed over and waste your credit card, because that's the most important card of them all. But you know what else you can do with that credit card? You can help support this channel by checking out the Patreon link down in the description below. And oh yeah, if you're finding me at WCQ Fort Worth, you can get yourself one of these. This looks oddly familiar. Well, actually, this is the Kaiba Adapt Field Center National Editions. They're very nice. They're about magic size, so if you want to actually sleeve these are magic size, of course. I will hold them for some of the Patreons. Trent, you know who you are. You are getting one. I will find you and I will deliver one to you. Paul, you know you're getting one too. And B-Tox, my newest Patreon subscriber. Huge shout out to you. Thank you so much. I love you all. And as always, I am going to show some love if I see you. Anyways, let's get into this topic. Let's go into seeing what we should hand trap versus each of the following decks, such as Sky Strikers, Trickstar, Goki, Spirals, Altergeist, and True Draco. Alright guys, so this is a bit of a cheat sheet so you guys can, well, learn all of the targets you need to hit quickly and get the most value out of it. If you guys disagree with me and you have better targets, leave it down in the comment section below. But I'm going to start things off with Sky Strikers. The best hand trap to use against Sky Strikers would be Drone Lockbird. You want to see this card against them because you turn off their entire turn. The deck is made up of searching spells, adding spells, drawing cards. If you're able to stop them early on, you also turn off the Shizuku, so the end phase cuts off a follow-up, which makes their next turn a lot weaker and much more manageable. And because of that, Drone Lockbird is definitely the #1 pick. #2 pick could possibly be a Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries, although this is more likely going to be a side card rather than a main card because Trickstar is kind of more dominant right now, but that could completely change after the Battle of Legends come out. But if you do hit them with a Reaper, hit them on their Kagari so that they don't get immediate explosiveness, because if you leave a Shizuku in there, it's a lot slower. They can still grind it out, but do bear in mind that if you yourself play Hornet Drones and you do play Kagari, your opponent can Shark Cannon it back, and then they can actually reuse their stuff, and they can even somehow get back their Shark Cannon through the multi-roll. In other words, they have your one Kagari to play with, and that could be more than enough, so that's something to be aware of. Sometimes in the mirror match, perhaps you want to hit the Shizuku so that they can't really grind out as well, but I don't know. That's just an option. Now, #3 would be Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. With a ton of targets in there, you don't want to waste this Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. So #1 target for me would be Shizuku, because end phase add is quite important. Usually adds an engage, and you can stop that. And if you can stop the engage search, they have to top deck the engage to actually really go off, unless they already have it in the graveyard. If they have it in the graveyard, then Shizuku is not really getting any benefits, but you just have to be very careful. Now, there's another situation where if it's a low resource situation, your opponent's trying to dig out using the field spell, you can use that to hit off the field spell so they can't excavate and add a card to your hand. Another card you can potentially stop as actually engaged, but under the situation where Kagari has already been summoned. And once Kagari has already been summoned and they add the engage back, and then they are also low resource, you can hit them on that instead. And because they played the engage, if they go into Shizuku again, it's not going to work out anymore. Now the 4th hand trap, Ghost Ogre. Main target to hit is the multi-roll. You just don't want them to get that advantage. But if they already kind of kicked off, it's impossible for you to Ghost Ogre the card if it already used the effect to send a card. So most of the time they will send off just so that they can protect their own spells. That's just a note, because it protects it from spell activation and spell effects as well, if I remember correctly. So those are the kind of go-tos for hitting on Sky Strikers. For Trickstars or Trickstar Sky Strikers, there isn't exactly too much you hit on the Sky Striker side because most of their stuff isn't once per turn. So starting off with Drone Lockbird. Drone Lockbird is just a mandatory play against this deck because the deck's consistency comes from searching, whether it be the terraforming. Once they activate that, they search a field spell. The field spell itself, Candina, Pot of Desires, Upstart Goblin, you name it, whatever that search is, engage. You just stop them and the turn kind of stops dead in its tracks, unless their hand is already the nuts anyway and they didn't need to search their way to victory. But usually that's not the case because that's how deck building works. You work towards building the maximum consistency, and therefore Jordan Lockbird skips most of their turn and leaves them with a relatively weak board. The only thing you have to be scared of at that point would be a scapegoat coming to bite you once you can't deal with it. So there's that. So make sure you can put a kill shot on them. So the second card to use against them would be Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. With that many targets, what do you actually hit? I wouldn't recommend hitting the first Pot of Desires, because if you hit the first Pot of Desires, sure, you're preventing them from getting a +1, but you're also screwing yourself over because it's a 1-for-1, and if they have a light stage, now they can go off, and if they go off, that's the worst. So the main thing to hit actually is the Candina, because Candina requires a normal summon, and that normal summon isn't exactly easy access to get it again unless they have Nightmare Goblin. So that's the easiest one to hit, and even if they bounce back with Lycoris, they still don't get the search because it's still negated. I know some of you guys are like, oh, what about the impermanence thing that negates them? Yeah, that's a faulty ruling because once the stuff leaves off the field, it doesn't chase. So that's just faulty. Hopefully at WCQ, just follow the head judge's ruling because that could actually affect how you build your deck. Now, the next thing to note is if it's a low resource situation, then you can hit the field spells or the terraforming or whatever, mainly because you don't want them to get that search. If they have a token already on the field, then you don't want them to get that monster regardless. It sucks. But this is mainly, again, low resource situation. They're top decking and they get to the card, then yeah, you can throw the Ash Blossom on those. Now, as for other hand traps, Ghost Reaper sucks because there's no real target. If you were to use Ghost Reaper, take out the Firewall so that you don't get Firewall looped, or take out the Nightmare Goblin because that's a real big pain in the ass. Or you can take out maybe Borreload Dragon if you really want to. But I think Firewall is a bigger issue if you did somehow have this card in the main deck. You can actually take out their Firewall so they can't OTK you with Lilybell Loop. As for Ghost Ogre, Ogre's pretty bad too. There's not exactly a lot of stuff you can hit. You don't want to hit the Candina because Candina can basically get tagged out by the Lycoris and survive, so that's a bit unfortunate. So instead you should hit the field spell. Yeah, just hit the field spell because whenever they try to stun your back row and blow it up later, you can use Ghost Ogre to take that out so you can protect your spells that way. As for Ghost Bell, Ghost Bell I don't think is very good, but it does stop the reincarnation from reviving a monster, so there's that benefit too. So if you do have it in the deck, just make sure that you do use it. A lot of people seem to forget to use Ghost Bell like that, but that's one thing you can also hit. As for Infinite Impermanence, I know at YCS they had the ruling, oh, it follows wherever it goes, so in other words, like, that's wrong. It's supposed to behave much like a Veiler, especially when stuff gets removed off the field. If you use Impermanence and they use Lycoris to tag the card back, the search still kind of goes through. So yeah, that's unfortunate. At least that's how I would rule it. I'm not sure. Most of the rules coming from the judges forums and coming from the Discard ruling zone, they all say that Impermanence doesn't do that following thing that happened, so make sure you know what's the rule for those. But yeah, that's basically it for the Trickstars. Next, for the deck that plays with the most amount of links, we have Gokis. Now, want to give a huge shout out to Georgie. Because of you, I comprehend the matchup a little bit better on what we can do. Now, bear in mind that you can't really deal with this deck unless you have hand traps. You don't want them to get that setup because that setup is devastating. They'll be at such an advantage that you'll just lose if you can't break the board. It's one of those board breaker decks. So, starting off with the very first hand trap, Jordan Lockbird. When do you draw them? Do you draw them right away or do you draw them later? According to Georgie, you actually have to draw them later. Draw them when they make Firewall Dragon. Think about it this way: when they make a Sold and they add the card, you basically draw them and then they get 3 cards. And then if they stop and then they go do a different combo, yeah, you're not exactly in the best position. So the 3 cards they add is the 2 cards that they use to summon off a Sold. If it's 2 Goki monsters, that's 2 searches. One is going to be a rematch, the other is going to be probably another monster, and then they also have a Sold monster that they get to add from the deck to the hand. And if you draw them then, they still can play the rematch and still can make a different kind of board. And they can still try to hold on as much as possible and still maintain a decent amount of card advantage. But if you hit them after the firewall, that's when they have committed, they have gone into the board, they use their firewall, and if you can answer their board. And once you go into the firewall and then you draw them, anytime they make a Nightmare Link, they don't get that draw anymore. So once you break their board, it's not exactly much recovery that you're gonna have to deal with anymore. So there's that going for them, and it's just harder for them to play once they're under draw like that. But you know, you guys can disagree, you guys can let me know what your thoughts are regarding that play. For Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, again, you should probably save the Ash for something that you can actually hit, like Isolde on the summon effect. You're not going to be able to stop it from searching because of chain blocking, and you don't really want to use your Ash on the Goki monster, because if you use it on the Goki monster, the thing is they don't target what they search, so if you stop the first one, the second one will get the rematch, and then you're still back in square one. Again, that's a wasted Ash, that's wasted $45 that you could probably use to get a nice meal and get a date or something, I don't know. And then Impermanent, hit Isolde again. You can hit them earlier this time. You can just use it to stop them from even searching the card, because it doesn't matter what chain link it is, because you can just hit them right away. So that also works out. If you're gonna Reaper them, yeah, you can also hit the Isolde, which is the more obvious target. But if you don't have Isolde in your extra deck, then you can hit the Firewall. See, they have a ton of Nightmare monsters, but perhaps the best card to actually Reaper them out is the Firewall Dragon. Because if you actually hit the Firewall Dragon, they're not actually getting a big amount of summons out anymore, because the later part of the combo relies on that Firewall Dragon to actually spam out cards. So if you stop them from doing so and take out the Firewall, yeah, that's not gonna work out for them. Even if it is just one card, a 1-for-1 for that, a Firewall Dragon, it is worth it, because you don't have to deal with a very scary extra link or perhaps a 4-link board that it's just super devastating if they keep it. And then we have Ghost Belle. Ghost Belle is actually pretty useful in this matchup, because this matchup you can use it to stop actually quite a few cards. The Goki rematch, you can prevent them from reviving cards. You can hit a Monster Reborn, or because they are this deck is basically a combo deck, they can use the extra resource, perhaps even hit a Soul Charge. And if you hit a Soul Charge, that's actually not too bad, but if they have just that many more cards than you, yeah, but remember, this deck mainly does not run any back row, so you just have to focus on the front row. Some people are running strikes, some people are not, so just be very careful of how you handle the board. If you're playing like Trick Stars and you have Light Stage usually can handle the strikes in the back, so all you really got to focus on is breaking that front row, that line of monster that's walling off, preventing you from getting victory. But that's the line of traps. Now for Firewall, you can also Ogre it, but you have to find the right timing. There is one timing that you can use, and most of the time they're going to chain block it. They're going to be like chain link 1 Firewall Dragon, chain link 2 the Nightmare monster. Instead, there is one instance that they're going to be forced to put Firewall chain link 2, and that's when you can toss the Ogre on it and it will kill it. Yeah, and once you kill that Firewall, it's a good game. Unless they have Monster Reborn, then it's a good game for you, because they have it, you can't stop them, you're screwed, you need that Ghost Belle. So Ghost Belle is actually one of the better cards. Hopefully you can use it at the right time. So for Altergeist, it's actually quite simple. I can cover this in basically like a minute. So there's only really 2 hand traps you need to use. One is Ash and the other is Ogre. Ash is only good when the timing is right. In other words, you're using it to stop things that aren't Altergeist based or not on the field. So you Ash the Meluseek that's in the graveyard that summons out Linkuriboh to search the Multi-Faker. That you have to hit. Once they get Protocol out, it's really hard to actually hit their stuff anyway with the Ash. And just don't be tempted, because it's really easy to go trigger happy and toss it into the graveyard. Not worth it. So hit the Meluseek that's in the graveyard, or hit Spoofing. Yeah, it hurts when you hit them with the Spoofing, because it's a 1-for-1 to actually lose a card when you hit them on the Spoofing. And those are the main 2 that you really hit. If you do have Ogre, you use it to hit the Spoofing, or you can use it to hit the Protocol. It really adds up. It really is beneficial if you hit those, because it's harder to prevent. Unless, of course, they have another copy of Protocol, and then things kind of get a little out of control, I suppose. But on the other hand, you can also use Reaper. If you do main deck Reaper, you can Reaper out the Linkuriboh so they can't go into Meluseek, into the Linkuriboh to get them that search of Multi-Faker. Because once Multi-Faker goes off once, it becomes a bit of a sticky situation, because their stuff is going to be on board. Silky just will bounce your stuff, and you just don't have that kind of grind game that you want to deal with. If someone's actually playing Spirals out there, you can actually hit them quite badly with Ash, and you can hit them really badly with Ghost Belle, and you can hit them pretty badly with Ogre. Why do these cards work? Because you can stop double Helix with all of these cards. So if they go into a double Helix play, you can Ash them right away so that they keep the double Helix and they don't really get much benefits out of that double Helix, which is immediately a massive plus. You can also use Ghost Belle against that double Helix, because double Helix includes a clause that summons out of the graveyard. So those are the best cards. You can also throw an Ogre at it, but I don't exactly recommend it because if they have the card, they can revive it, and you guys kind of get how that works. If they have the resource to constantly revive stuff, put out a sleeper with the resort, it's gonna be pretty sticky. But instead, you should probably use your Ogre on the field spell. Since there's only one copy of the field spell, you can prevent them from recycling, and if you can prevent them from getting that unicorn to recycle the card, that also works out in your favor. So yeah, but mainly you want to stop them from actually getting enough links to put out that unicorn to recycle that field spell so that Master Plan can't get that surge. So that's the quickest way to cover for that particular deck. Of course, you have your Reaper, take out the double Helixes, and then you can have an easier grind, because without double Helix, it's just not exactly as explosive. And also, Drone Lockbird hurts them quite badly because they also have a ton of searches from every single card that they play. Okay, for True Dracos, I don't think there's too much we need to learn about this one. Drone Lockbird on anything, that's really good. If they have Amano Iwado, use Infinite Impermanence to turn it off, and then use your other hand traps to stop them from going off. Because if you use the Infinite Impermanence on the Amano Iwado, then they'll think twice before using that Pot of Desires or Card of Demise. Of course, use Ash Blossom on the Card of Demise, Heritage, Pot, you guys name it, you guys got it. And then there's Ogre on the diagram, so they don't get to keep the diagram, but of course you can still use Ash on it, but it's just not as good in that case, but it is a tempo-based card. You can use Ghost Belle to actually stop the Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix from shuffling stuff back into the deck and then getting that draw. Overall, there's a lot of cards you can use to prevent. I would actually prefer to actually set the Infinite Impermanence if you do go first, and then you can actually line it up with your opponent's cards and negate even more, so you can prevent them from getting that special summon, that extra draw, the shuffle. All that stuff is still available to you. And finally, the last deck that I can give you a list for hand traps, which would be Dino Paleo. Like, oh, what do you hit with this one? You hit Survival's End. If you're playing a token-based deck, if you're playing Trickstars or you're playing Sky Strikers and they have Survival's End, you can Ash that because it summons stuff from the deck. So you can use that to protect your guys and not get a heavy minus. Perhaps if you are playing against that deck, keep your Ashes handy because they will save your board and let you break your opponent's board. It is very important because if you actually Ash them, they might not even have a dinosaur to actually use the rest of their stuff. So in other words, they can't use Survivals and to pop your card either. So it's actually a 2-for-1 play on that Ash. And you can actually Ogre another card, which is the Lost World. You don't want to get that dinosaur token because if you get that dinosaur token, it sucks when they use Rivalry and you're just not able to play the game. They get to grind you out and then set up their OTK and kill you. Dino Paleo, if you guys don't know, they did top 4 at the Dutch Nationals. So it's not a deck that you should completely disregard. It is a very strong deck, especially against a token-based deck like Trickstar. They are like an antithesis to Trickstar. If they go off, they will kill you. Shoutouts to Phil for destroying me when I was trying it out. I used Scapegoat, and then I gave him a +4, and it really just sucked. It sucked completely. And that's all I got for this particular video. If you guys enjoyed this little cheat sheet, hit me up with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, and I'm going to be talking about my Nationals prediction, and I got a live game for you guys just for fun coming up. Subscribe to MST.TV to stay tuned, and I believe the Cinderella proxies are now available for everyone on my Discord. Check out my Discord channel down in the description below. Thank you all for the Patreons, and have a good night, guys, and don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.